guys, it's Jessica from Peace Love Books, and today I'm here with some underrated historical romances that you might not have read yet. So some of them are ones I've talked about because I've loved them and I've read them, but they don't have that many reviews on Goodreads, so I'm recommending them to you now. They are authors that I think are pretty underrated, that outside of my close friends on BookTube who do read historical romances, I don't see a lot of other people reading them, and I don't see them as often on Instagram or YouTube. So I will go ahead and get to some historical romances that you probably have not read yet that I highly recommend. The first one is The Footman and I by Valerie Bowman. I actually read this because of Lisa from Remarkably Lisa. Lisa reads so many historical romances and a lot that I don't think are as well known, so a couple of these I actually read because of her. But this one is a footman who is not actually a footman. So our hero wants to find a wife that's not after him for his money, so him and his friends kind of come up with this game kind of deal thing where they dress up as servants and go to a house party and try to see the real sides of people and try to find someone for them. And so our hero dresses up as a footman, and he immediately really likes our heroine, whose mom wants her to make a good match. And the heroine, though, is so nice to the servants and ends up falling for him as a servant, and so she doesn't really care about money or title, and it was just the sweetest. And I enjoyed listening to the audiobook. It went by super fast, and I'm excited to read more from the series. I haven't yet, but one I definitely recommend checking out. The next one was also recommended by Lisa, and that is The Duke in My Bed by Amelia Gray. This one does not have the best ratings, but I gave it 5 stars. I really loved it. And this one, our heroine's brother dies in a drunken carriage race, and he makes the Duke, who is, I don't remember how close of friends they were, but they were in the race together, and he's like, you need to take care of my sisters and make sure that they're okay. And so the Duke says okay and basically promises to marry her, and he does not fulfill his promise. And so years pass, and the heroine's been pretty much raising her siblings on her own. They have a cute dog, and the Duke shows up, and all of society knows about this bet, and he confronts the family, and everyone's like, well, aren't you guys getting married? He is completely overwhelmed with all of these sisters. I think there's 5 siblings, and they're back in London because the next youngest sister is ready to come out into society, and it is so cute and so good. I really liked it. I do like I promise to take care of you, but then they end up falling in love, and I just really enjoyed it. I loved how the Duke started really caring about the family, so if you like family involved in historical romances, I would definitely recommend this one. I just realized the first 5 of these are recommended from Lisa to me. So if you're not following Lisa yet, check her channel out. I will link her down below. The next one's by Vivian Lorette, and that is How to Forget a Duke. It's an amnesia romance. I really love this one. Our heroine is a matchmaker, and she is trying to help her family's business of matchmaking, and so this Duke hires them to give him a good match, and she ends up traveling to his estate, getting into an accident and losing her memory, and they decide to let her stay at his estate so she can slowly recuperate, and he helps take care of her. And it's definitely a class difference though, because she is not of high class and she needs to make sure they find him a match for her business. And so when the memory does come back, it's like, but we can't be together because we're not socially acceptable. And I really enjoy this one. I love a good amnesia romance. It kind of has caretaking in here because she is recovering at his estate, and I just really enjoy a good amnesia romance, and I'm excited to read more from Vivian Lorette. Then I want to recommend Shanna Galen, which is again one of Lisa's favorite authors, and this one is Third Sons of Charm. This one, our hero is part of a group of military guys who all took those jobs that like were death sentences, but they actually survived, and so now they're back in society. He takes on a bodyguard kind of position, and she is, I believe, the daughter of a duke, so this is class difference as well. I've talked about this one a lot. I just love it so much. And she is determined to marry someone, but her parents are like, no, you can't marry him. And the hero's like, he wants you for your money, and she's like, no, it's true love. And her bodyguard though have to go to like balls together and go out in society together because he needs to watch her every move so she doesn't run away. And of course they end up falling for each other, but I really enjoy this. It is a class difference as well because I think he's the third son, and that's why it's called that, but he is her bodyguard, and it's adorable. I love a good bodyguard romance, especially when it's in historicals, so this one you have to check out. I own a lot of these that I'm talking about. I just don't have them with me. But the next one is Love is a Rogue by Lenora Bell. This one is the cutest. Our heroine is a wallflower, and she loves books and reading, and so she is determined to make her own. I think she's writing a dictionary, and it's a class difference, and so there's a really, really attractive man working on her estate, and she is like spying on him and drops her glasses on him, so he like climbs up her window to give them back to her, and she actually inherits a bookshop, and the bookshop is in complete ruin, but she's super excited about it, and so she hires him to help rebuild this bookshop, and her mother tells her, you can have the bookshop if you agree to like actually try in society and find a husband. So she agrees, but she's slowly falling for this guy who's in construction that's helping her rebuild this bookshop, and there's fun secrets about the bookshop, and I loved their romance, and he builds her bookshelves and a nice like office study space to just make her happy, and it was the absolute cutest. And so if you like a bookish heroine and a class difference kind of romance, because he doesn't want that because his parents were a class difference romance and he saw how horribly that ended for his mother and her relationship with her family who was of high class, I would definitely recommend checking this out. And I love Lenora Bell, so this was such a fun romance. Then I have To Catch an Earl by Kate Bateman. I feel like a lot of people read Kate Bateman, but this second book is severely overmissed because book 1 is really great. It's a marriage of convenience. Book 3 is amazing. I just read it and absolutely loved it. But this one I loved as well, and not that many people talk about this one. She's a jewel thief. He works for Bow Street and he's trying to figure out who this jewel thief is, and he met her at a ball once and really liked her and knew her smell but didn't see her face, and now he remembers her by her smell and recognized her by that, and it sounds kind of weird, but it's not, I promise. And so he is kind of aware that she is the jewel thief but can't prove it, and so they're falling for each other, but they know that they're on the other side of the law. Like, he is after her and she is trying to break the law and run away from him, but they're falling for each other, and it's just so much angst and so good. I really love this, and like the antics they play against one another. I love Kate Bateman. I love this book, and you need to read this if you've read the other books in the series. I highly recommend. And I highly recommend the series overall if you haven't checked it out yet. Then I have One Fine Duke by Lenora Bell. I read this a couple years ago, so I'm a little fuzzy on the details, but I did love this one. I gave it 5 stars. And in this one, our heroine wants a life of adventure, and she sees this guy who's, I think he's a rake. I don't know if you can call him a rake, but he's definitely very adventurous and doesn't have the best reputation. And she's like, that's who I want to be with. Like, he's gonna make life so exciting and amazing. But her uncle has picked out a duke for her to marry, and that is actually the brother of the guy she wants to be with. And so she ends up having to dance with the duke at a ball, and she's trying to make herself as undesirable as possible because she doesn't want to marry this duke. She wants to marry his brother, who's like the adventurer and super fun. And she ends up falling for the duke, and he ends up falling for her, but their banter's hilarious. I really love this. They want someone else, but really the person that's perfect for them is in front of them the whole time, and it's actually the case where who was picked out for them was right, which normally doesn't happen. It's normally like the family wants them to marry someone that's completely wrong for them, but that's not what happened here. It was great. I love Lenora Bell. I think that you guys really need to check her out, and I really enjoyed this series, especially this first book in the series. Then I have This God of Mine by Sophie Jordan. I feel like this one is not one that a lot of people talk about, and it's one of my favorite Scottish romances. It's in the middle of a series, but I read it first, and then I went back and read the other books, and they're actually talked about, like the layered in this book is talked about in a different book, but our heroine wants to get out of a marriage, so she lies and said that she's pregnant and runs away, and the hero is Scottish, and he agrees to marry her to protect her. And he wants to marry her though because his family is cursed, and I love romances with curses in them, so that's why I really love this one. His family is cursed that the firstborn child is born, the father dies, and so before that child ends up being born, and so he doesn't want to have any children because he doesn't want to die, but like his father died right before he was born, the father before that died. I don't remember if it's the firstborn son or just the firstborn child, but that's the curse. And so she's not actually pregnant. She lied to get out of that marriage, and so he wants to marry her because she's pregnant so he can have an heir but not actually have a biological child so that the curse doesn't come into effect so he doesn't die. And so it's kind of a messy situation the heroine's in. I do believe that they get married before she tells him the truth, so that's a big no-no, but it was so good. And of course they have to work on trying to break this curse, and they're falling in love, and I just love this one. I would highly recommend reading it. It's so good, and it was so good. I love, like I said, cursed romances, and it's Scottish, so what more can you ask for? Then I have The Wrong Bride by someone. I don't remember, oh my gosh, Gail something, maybe? I don't remember the author's name, but this one I recently read, and it was a lot of fun. Again, it's a Highlander romance, and our hero is the laird of a clan, and he was promised a bride and a bride price, and so he really, really needs that money because his clan is like destitute, and so he decides to kidnap his bride and make her come with him and marry him so he can have her money, because it's been arranged for a long time. So he kidnaps the heroine, and the heroine is not who he's supposed to be marrying. Her name is Catriona, and I think she goes by Riona and the other girl goes by Kat, and they have the same name and they're cousins, and she's actually staying at her house with like her uncle, but her uncle sent his daughter away and placed her in his daughter's bedroom, so the uncle kind of knew what was going to happen. And the hero kidnaps her, and the whole time she says like, I'm not your betrothed, it's my cousin, why are you taking me, stop taking me. The hero doesn't listen, which a lot of people do find annoying in the reviews. I was fine with it because like he's thinking she wants to escape, so she's gonna lie about everything and he's gonna realize too late like she's actually telling the truth, which is fine. Yeah, it's totally plausible. And so he ends up kidnapping her and she tries to escape a bunch of times. It's a traveling romance because they're traveling together back to Scotland, and I loved what she did with his family and how she helped like mend things with the family and the clan. His dad was a really awful person, and so she helped them kind of confront things that had happened and have closure of what happened. And of course they fell in love, even though he's supposed to now marry a different woman and get the money he needs. But it is such a good romance. I had a lot of fun listening to this audiobook and I would highly recommend. The last one I have is one I talk about literally all the time, and you're gonna probably roll your eyes when I talk about it again, but it only has 1,600 ratings on Goodreads, which I consider underrated, and that is If the Duke Demands by Anna Harrington. Anna Harrington I think is an underrated author. I think more people need to read her books. She is still publishing books. She has a new one coming out next year with Source Books, and this one is the first book in a series where our heroine is in love with someone she grew up near and tries to seduce him, but accidentally ends up seducing the brother because they're wearing masks, and the brother is the Duke and he needs to find a wife. He thinks that he was not good enough when his father passed away, so he's been trying to make up for it, and he's like, I need to take this seriously, find the perfect Duchess. And so she's like, fine, I'll help you, but you need to help me get your brother. And so they make a deal where she helps him find a wife if he helps her win over his brother, and they fall for each other instead. I love, we're trying to find someone for each other but fall in love in the process with each other. It's so good. I loved this romance, and again, this is something that Lisa told me to read that I absolutely loved. So I think Anna Harrington is someone that's really underrated that you guys need to check out. Even though I talk about her all the time, not a lot of people have read her books. And those are my underrated historical romances. I hope you got some new recommendations. I know a lot of these I talk about all the time, but some of them I don't. So hopefully you check them out and let me know if you have any underrated historical romance author recommendations. I would love to have more recommendations, so leave them in the comments below. And that's all I have. As always, thank you so much for watching and have a good day. Bye.